Welcome to Colney Talk Podcast.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another episode of Colney Talk Podcast, the bite-sized show. I'm your host Alex, first-time guest, happy to have you here. And to my returning listeners, really glad you're joining me. On this bite-sized show, I talk a bit about the Arsenal game, and then pick out my top 3 Arsenal players who I think were great in the game, and one player I consider the odd one who just had a poor game, or not good enough, who just needs to be called out. Arsenal's 2-2 draw with Bayern Munich in the Champions League quarterfinals. First leg showcased Arsenal's bravery and determination. With a bit of inexperience for me seeing them at this stage, there was more signals of progress and maturity, and there's no other way for that to come. With newfound experience, as they have gone through this, Arsenal's future, as I'm pretty sure like everyone would really see this, in this competition looks promising and full of possibilities because this team had to go through this all together and there's a lot to gain from it. From the lineup, Kivior coming in and Martinelli back in the startup, I guess we needed a little bit more defensive strength and pace on both sides. The way the game started, Arsenal looked to grab possessions early, pressing Bayern intensely as usual. This was so reminiscent of last season Arsenal, who played fast and hard and scored early, and they were just blazing quick in intensity, and it showed itself out early in this game. But it was Bayern on the ball as the game was just growing. Either way, there was just a lot of intent on what Arsenal wanted to do and display in this game. Even though it wasn't in a shape yet to trap Arsenal, they knew how to break things up, and they did that successfully going forward. Martinelli had the first shot attempt at the top of the box, and that was a good look, and they really got the crowd going, got the team spirits up, got them real charged. And as matchup goes, Alphonso Davies and Saka was a battle to see throughout the game. Unfortunately, I guess on his part, he won't be able to continue on that for the second leg. Saka did a lot with him, going back and forth. There was intensity on both sides. I could see Saka up for it, trying to make sure that he made a statement with his presence in the game. And with that, Arsenal looking comfortable with the ball, moving with confidence and quickness. This quickness, as I said, was gears up, way faster, with so much pace and movements like I hadn't seen so much. And I think this game demanded that. I think this Bayern Munich team that we're playing was not a team to overlook. So we had to bring our best, bring our game, and this was one form of display that we had to put up for them. Saka and Odegaard getting a lot of touches on the right wing, as I've said before. When both players are having as much comfortable touches in the game, there's bound to see great returns, at least with their combinations, with their influence and their presence. And as nature would have it, Odegaard passed to Saka while not getting the full connection, but then it was quickly recovered by Havertz for Ben White to play him on and gave him a space to give us a lovely finish goal, 1-0. Like inject all that screams, elation with the crowd, with the players. This was a confirmation of what they intended to do and how it paid dividend to those quick burst plays and attacking Bayern at every formation and every phases, especially on that ball. And it was quite a lovely start. And there was no one better than Saka to really make that statement. And the game went on. There was so much fire going on. And we could have had a second chance, a second goal. It would have been 2. A lovely ball from Odegaard to Ben White that didn't connect quickly well enough. But guess who's first on the ball for that recovery? Havertz again. Now I'm passing the ball back to Ben White with an open shot directly at Neuer. Only if. But that was a great chance by Ben White. And I tell you, for a game like this, I've seen him go forward a lot of times. This was different. This was intent on playing to shoot, playing to score. It wasn't playing for a pullback or a cross. Ben White was going forward with an attacking instruction from Arteta. Oh boy, there is so much that we have yet to see from Ben White, and is getting unleashed and unlocked gradually in so many phases of the games and the teams that we play against, and this was one of them. But as the game was just going on, we had this full vibe of confidence and positive plays going on, and everything was going our way, and it didn't look like we were pressured at all. We had everything in front of us, but as the love of this game goes, it's never as it dictates itself. In one slight turn of events and one slight chance, everything just changes, and it did. From one bad pass from Big Gabby, the next series of events just led to an equalizer from Bayern. It was so unreal, so unfortunate. I didn't think that bad pass would really escalate to that level, but we're talking about Bayern here, and I think we've gone to the stage of this tournament that even the margins of error pays and shows itself tremendously, and I think you pay for it, which we did. But Arsenal were so charged. They didn't really stop in what they wanted to do. They were first on the ball, attacking any second bounce given any second ball bounce, giving them opportunities to claim more possession. It wasn't so much about just the possession itself, but going forward and staying with that pace that I think was something that played in their favor. And the game moved really fast. There was so much back and forth. Bayern had their counterattacks in few moments and just caused us some problems. But I think we knew what that was about. But we kept staying hard in it, staying on top of the game. A quarter past in the first half, Arsenal were moving really well and going forward, and that was giving Bayern fits. I mean, a lot of fits. Sane had his own chances a few times, but then he had one where he owned Kivio on a turn, running free into Arsenal's box with no one close enough to stop his pace, and unfortunately that led to a very bad moment, and there was a penalty for Bayern, and as you would imagine, Kane puts it away, and it's 2-1, Arsenal down. Two bad mistakes from our center backs, and these were like two bad mistakes that we had to pay for dearly, which we hadn't done at all. As it were, for Arsenal, nothing changed. The game was staying the same for them. Like, we hadn't scored at all, and we just kept firing with the same, program intent and all of what they wanted to do. But we were suffering from Sane's pace because it showed itself in dangerous times, I would say, as well. But we were able to recover from that, defend, and manage some lucky chances, really, because that would have put us in another precarious situation. And Ben White brilliantly defended one of those moments from Sane's pace, and I just feel like that was the risk reward that we had to do, playing up high, considering that we didn't want to give them any room to jump right in and counterattack. And if anything, counterattack from their half was what we had to deal with, trying to disrupt everything, in the middle of the park, or at least cause some sort of a free kick or something. But, I liked how Arsenal were eager to still go forward regardless of the score sheet and how things had turned around. I think there was enough information in how it had played out to understand the risks that they were going to take and the players that they were trying to at least block any channels going through, and how things had kind of like settled up to this point. And there were flashes for Arsenal in terms of connections going forward, getting in the box to shoot a number of times. We had a few crosses, but no one to connect at the other end. But, that I think that was their license for Arsenal to stay up going forward, and combining with, our fullbacks, especially Ben White, to just run through into the box and give the fits to so many of the other players who were not necessarily in a situation to play more of defending, because we had put Bayern more in a defensive task, defending us more than they should have, more so than their actual defenders. So there was a lot more, work for them to do. And this game moved rather quickly. With 5 minutes left in the first half, Arsenal 2-1 down, were so sure and intent to score and get back into the game, at least, trying to address the deficit, and they kept trying to create something, make something happen. It wasn't really showing itself up, but that forward play was right there, playing a lot in Bayern's thirds. It wasn't fully as you expect, but I don't think it would always result in having those plays reside within the box. Whilst we were in their third, there was enough encouragement for them to continue to work and build things out. A bit more eagerness, I would say, because that's what Arsenal had to do. That's what Arsenal were ready for. We made sure to cut off any channels to feed Sane the ball any more than he already had. And for the most part, Arsenal did that effectively, really put in a lot of pressure, giving those duels and 50-50 ball away from the dangerous players. And this was how we managed the game. And that was it for the first half. Start of second half, Zinchenko in for Kivior, and I think we knew what that demanded, a little bit more fire than we already had. So that's more risk that we're going to take, but at least with quality, knowing what Zinchenko brings. First build-up play, Havertz crosses in for Martinelli for a header that didn't really connect well, but that was a positive play. Not sure why it was flagged for offsides, but I think if they had to look at it, it probably would have still stood, but there was nothing there. And Arsenal were looking to get Martinelli involved in a 1v1 play situations against Kimmich. He didn't have much of that in the first half. That wasn't so much of a big deal, but the chances he had, he tried to make something work, and this was now the plays that we would at least try to work out at the early start of the second. He was getting a lot more crosses coming his way, a lot more balls flowing his way, just like we fed Saka in the first half. So it was more so to get Martinelli in and see him affect the game somehow in an attacking way. Arsenal were still on that forward press with a bit more quickness in their game. Bayern couldn't handle this aggressive nature. I mean, it was too much for them to handle. Saka was now getting knocked down a lot. I mean, that comes with attention. That comes with the caliber of player that he is. And it was more to our advantage either way. I mean, stopping the game, not so much, but you can imagine that was just the only other way they had to deal with it. Couldn't do it as much as they could because a few other yellow cards coming their way. Still working on the plays for Arsenal. Odegaard doing the most pressing, dropping all the way deep to pick up the ball, getting forward. He was effectively on the ball, getting connections in several ways, but working Bayern wasn't as easy. But sometimes when you have players like Odegaard, Jorginho, and Rice going forward, and Havertz getting in several pockets, it makes it look easy, but it's not. But they were so effective in the way that we were not hesitant in those forward plays, in those forward passes. It wasn't motion slow, it was on a quick tempo. And Odegaard had an opening where he could have fed the ball to Havertz, but didn't see him think slightly on his blind side. He would have scored if he had that chance. Instead, he passed it off to Martinelli, who had a shot blocked. Encouraging, in my mind at least, because this is the intent. Those shots, blocked as they may be, is really going again in the same license of something was going to happen. The second bounce would at least give one of the forward players within Bayern's box a poacher or something to really make that score level. While we knew Bayern were deadly with the ball on their counter-attack from their own half, it's something that we had to manage. Sane was unstoppable as much as we try to get him down, but just seeing how he wasn't fit enough as we put them through the ringer, he had to get subbed. And then Arsenal, we had to bring in our big guns as well, Jesus and Trossard for Jorginho and Martinelli at this point. It was all positives for Arsenal, cranking up the gears even more with the ball going forward. Bayern were not settled at all. I think, Arsenal knew this was the way to really get at them, and Arsenal's attacking pace was on 2x speed. Only thing that just happened to that point was just not getting the final ball connecting very well, or at least getting into the place that put them in a whole lot more uncomfortable position, even more than they already were. Now the game, as quickly as it was just flying, was now trending towards the last 15 to 20 minutes. Now more pressure, frustration. So, just so many emotions and things going on, and no good pass combinations, just happening yet within Bayern's box. And that didn't stop Arsenal. That didn't stop them in the way they felt the game, the way that they can see things just kind of like open itself up, because as soon as Jesus and Trossard came in, there was a little bit more control than we had earlier. And again, this goes with experience and some of these players and how they can just get in the box and do something great. And then the magic happened. From 50-50 ball, quick forward pass from Saka to Jesus, who was now dancing his way in the box, rolls it up for Trossard to fire off a shot for Arsenal's equalizer. What a brilliant shot. That was an unbelievable play. Back on level terms, 2-2. This was fire in our veins, like more eagerness, like that just everything that we needed to just get back in the game. And we were just hungry for more goals. They believed that they had that in them. They were just trying to go forward. They just had Bayern on the ropes, and they just really wanted to get something going. However, Bayern were also on the ball, and they stationed at some point in our half. But as you would expect, Arsenal were solid defensively in their stations, giving nothing away. Like every time they tried to drive in both wings, they had to recycle and try it again in different situations. If a few shots they had went off and there was nothing, and then in a flash, on the other side, Saka dribbled his way into the box with a cross, but no one in there to connect those, missed chances that were showing itself but not really happening. And now we were in the final minutes. I was so nervous because we had already given a free kick. We didn't have any more players to absorb any yellow card of sort, because we know Rice and Havertz were in a tough situation to do any of that. So any more of those, free kicks from a player or any fouls that we'll give up was not going to be a good look for us for, thinking about the second leg. And just like that scary moment did come. Bayern were just right there. They would have scored from a driving play, but it was a massive, massive save from a post. I mean, that ball was going in for sure. I mean, Bayern were not giving us any last-minute build-up chance after that, because they felt like that was the only chance. And with 2 minutes left in the game, we were playing forward from a distance building from our half. And then from what I would have called the last crucial play that would have even been the goal-scoring chance, it was not the best, if you ask me. Saka had his moment to shoot. Instead, he thought he would get a penalty on a play. I wouldn't call it a dive per se, but it just didn't naturally occur in the way that he would have been given that penalty. And that was the final score. I mean, that was the final call for the game. It ended in a draw, 2-2, and that was it. This was not a bad result for Arsenal. It looked like the formula to attack Bayern was this 2x speed playing forward that was hard for them to keep up. In turn, we had a lot more bad passes than usual. A bit more risky, if you ask me, though we were rewarded some more than anything. I'm not sure we would do that when we were away in the second leg, but we live to fight another day. Lots and lots to learn from in this game, and so much to appreciate from this team. I mean, there is a lot more respect gained from Bayern and so many other teams that have taken notice for sure, because Arsenal did not come to play. They were not scared at all. They had so much fire behind them. Yes, they were playing at home, but this was the intent on how they wanted to come out at Bayern, and they wanted all that smoke. All right, straight to my top 3 players. First up, Saka. He wanted everything Alphonso Davies could offer and then some. So eager to fix him up, dribble through him, get in on him, get in his face, attack him as much as he would, regardless of any moments of losing the ball, but obviously with reason. And even with those lost battles, he was still getting successfully right through in the box and just doing his Saka things. And in a lot of those plays, it turned out obviously scoring that goal and giving some of the other players like Havertz and Ben White a chance to really drive in and get some of the other players involved. I think he would have had another chance, but like I said, there were so many other connections, just like Ben White, there to score and play forward, that it was Saka's presence that made that happen. There was a bit more fire to his game, and I loved it. Although I didn't quite like that last play that he had. He would have let off a shot. If it didn't go in, so what? That's what we want him to do. That's what I know Saka could to do, and we can't really rest on if then what. But that shot was so needed to happen rather than that penalty. But it just didn't play out the way it would. So again, that's another thing for him to learn and go into the next game. Second player, Odegaard. Top plays from him all through this game. He was the engine to keep Saka and Ben White forward. His pressing, his recycle balls forward was incredible. I mean, he didn't have the best opening in terms of shots, but I like that he took him. That's no fear. And he also served up for Rice and Martinelli in several moments. Not that Bayern gave him that much freedom, but he was able to dribble his way and make something happen. His impact, as we all know, is vital in keeping our attacking tempo the way Arteta intended, and he kept that. He made that happen. I mean, this is me saying this a second time. The way that Odegaard plays and makes things happen makes it look so easy. And just as we have the other quality players as well with him, it's just remarkable how good they are and the kinds of things that they do to just execute in terms of our attacking plans. Third and final player, Havertz. Work rate, heads up play, link up plays, was all playmaker-esque. Those runs and pulling players back and just making Ben White run through and so much more spaces for Saka. I mean, his second ball hustle was unbelievable. Since we all know his runs, he was in one play waiting for the ball to just land for him to finish, only if it just happened. That's positional awareness for Havertz, and he's at the best. I think he is the best amongst all players, and that's just top quality. I cannot talk about this guy anymore. As good as he is going forward, his brilliance, his instincts, unreal. What a player. I mean, he was so much. But I'll still give a shout out to Rice and Ben White. They were superb as well. Ben White's, clearance, getting back against Sane's pace, that would have been a goal right there. And his forward play, he would have scored as well. So there was so much greatness in what Ben White did today. And Rice, I think we're going to see so much more of him unleashed in the second leg. But I just don't want to hype it too much. It's more so of them, learning from this game and getting ready for the second leg. It was uncharacteristic for Big Gabby and Saliba to make mistakes in this game. It's been a long time that they've tried to just maintain the levels, which they did, but these mistakes does not define them, is not going to break them. At least they know this more so now. I rather have them learn from this right now. It's not so much of a gamble, but there is no other opportunity and best time to learn when you know you need to, and in these games, that's what they need. So that's that. And with that, it's not enough for me to call them out. I know we came out of our defensive shell a bit more than we usually would to play against Bayern, and we managed the threats as much as we could. Again, we had to deal with the risks in everything that we knew what we were trying to go for. We had luck and efforts help us, giving us this chance to keep the game square, which we did. And for sure, we're going to be thinking a lot more about this game in terms of the return leg, and so much to account for the pace, the way that Bayern try to play us, but at least what works for us going forward. But when we're playing away, there's so much more elements that we have to think about. Quarterfinals, first leg done. Now we face another tough one over the weekend. It's all levels now going, as we all know it. All right then, I'll leave it here for now. Talk to you all soon. Take care.